good morning po. We are the reporters for Gender Theory of Conflict. So, sa order of presentation namin, Ma'am Mary Rose Colango will first report, then me, Louie Nielsen Paniango, then Ma'am Neng Salipada po.
Tatlo lang kayo?
Opo sir, tatlo lang po.
Okay, sige. Present lahat. Yung
Yes, sir.
niyo.
Yes, sir. Present
po,
po.
sir.
Sige. Kasi nag-note ako dito sa attendance niyo.
Okay, start.
Sir, pwede nyo ma-full screen, sir? Baka maliit sa mga cellphone ba?
Opo,
Thank
sir.
you. Yan, okay po. Thank you.
Start na po, Ma'am.
Okay, let's start. Okay, good morning, Sir Datumanong. Good morning, everyone. So our group will report on the gender theory of conflict.
Sino itong nagre-report? Si
Mary Rose Colango, sir.
Sige, please, proceed.
Okay, so the conflict perspective. So looking back at the concept of conflict theory, so it's all about society defined by a struggle for dominance among social groups that compete for scarce resources. But in the context of gender, so ipapasok yung conflict theory, it argues that men attempting to maintain power and privilege to the detriment of women. So while men compete for power and privilege, the group of women are being harmed. So the men are seen as the dominant group and women the subordinate group. Next slide, sir. While certain gender roles may have been appropriate in a hunter-gatherer society, conflict theories argue that the only reason these roles persist is because the dominant group, which are the group of the men, naturally works to maintain their power and status. In addition, according to conflict theory, social problems are created when dominant group exploit or oppress or abuse the subordinate groups. So therefore, the approach is normative. So when we say normative, it follows a standard. So pag nag-follow the standard, it will prescribe changes to the power structure to advocate a balance of power between genders. Next slide, sir. Okay, so we consider the women's suffrage movement. So the women's suffrage movement, so long time ago, di ba, hindi naman agad-agad naka-gain ng right to vote yung ating mga kababaihan. So nagkaroon sila ng protesta about it. So aside from that, there's also the women's right to choose their reproductive future. So it comes to family planning, so the women insist that they also have the right to choose kung anong a right to choose a decision pagdating sa family planning. So according to Carrington and Fulcock, it is difficult for women to rise above men as dominant group members create the rules for success and opportunity in society. Next slide, sir. So according to Friedrich Engels, he is a German sociologist who studied family structure and gender roles from a Marxist perspective. So he suggested that the same owner-worker relationship seen in the labor force could also be seen in the household, with women assuming the role of the proletariat. So for Engels, he compared the relationship of the man and a woman in a family or the married couple to a owner-worker relationship. So si women, siya daw yung may role ng proletariat or the working class. So bakit ganon? Because women depend on men for the attainment of wages, especially in the old times. Diba, women are in the household, so they will take care of the children, they will take care of the kids and the house, while the family, the man as the family head will work to provide the needs of his family. So, but in the contemporary conflict theories or in the modern era, they suggest that when women became wage earners, they also gain power in the family structure and create more democratic arrangements in the home, although they may still carry the majority of the domestic burden. So as we can see in the picture, so there is the dual role of the women as a head of the household when it comes to taking care of the children and the budget, the food, at the same time working as a career woman. Now let's go to gender mainstreaming and women empowerment. So what is gender mainstreaming all about? Sige, next slide, sir. So the basic premise is not a war of the sexes, it's not anti-male. Both women and men are victims, although women more than men, and they both have a stake in the struggle for gender equality. And gender mainstreaming is not only a women issue. It's not just about improving access or balancing statistics. It is not blaming anybody for the inequalities. It's not about only women taking action or benefiting from it. Gender mainstreaming is all about reducing poverty and boosting economic growth. So it tackles inequalities which discriminates either sexes. It recognizes male and female identities, the differences in their needs and priorities. It also involves willingness to establish a balanced distribution of responsibilities between women and men. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it's a continuous process. So gender mainstreaming is a strategy for developing policies, legislations, programs, projects, and plans that benefit both women and men. It aims to end gender blindness in development process. It offers equal access to and control over resources and opportunities. Next slide, sir. So gender mainstreaming means the differences between women and men should never be used as a ground for discrimination. Long-lasting changes in the society, transforming parental roles and institutional practices. So reshaping the flow rather than adding activities for women at the margins. So why is there a need for gender mainstreaming? Because in our society, so most society have the patriarchal system. So when we say patriarchal system, male dominance. So raising children is for women, and then there is also the stereotyping or the double standard. Then there's the gender roles, the sex and gender, the culture, and the socialization process. So in summary, gender mainstreaming is all about gender inclusive and aims gender equality in terms of political, economic, social, and cultural aspects of the society. So that's all for the gender mainstreaming. So our next
Okay, ma'am.
reporter, Sir Louie Nielsen, Paniango.
Okay, please proceed, Louie.
So, before I will proceed with the report, meron na akong ipe-present na video talking about gender socialization. Ito yung video. Makita po ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Naririnig ba yan?
Possible dito sa sir, sa Google Meet, hindi ata marinig ang audio ng video ba?
Okay. So, may ano naman, may nakasulat naman. Tingnan lang natin.
These great choices that reinforce gender roles created by society. Blue for boys and pink for girls. The choice we buy our children will be a huge impact on how they will begin to see themselves as members. What message is being sent by these toys? Meet Riley, our youngest reporter. Toys like cars, soldiers, action figures, and weapons are targeted boys. This teaches boys to be less violent and simply focus on their physical ability. Girls are taught to be nurturing, kind, and caring. They are taught to take care of their baby dolls, clean and cook with their kitchen sets, and dress up their superficial Barbie. Why is this a problem, you ask? It's a huge problem. Children should be taught to think for themselves rather than follow someone else's. Dolls, for example. What is being taught to young girls?
Hindi masyado marinig.
Even though it's
Ang kahit ano lang ma'am, yung ano niya lang, video niya lang po.
What about the students? Girls are supposed to be homemakers.
Baka pwede nyo ma-post doon sa Sir, sa group chat natin.
Apa,
Thank
apa.
you. Thank you.
Okay. Yun po yung video about yung sa toys pa lang. So, bata pa lang tayo, nagkakaroon na ng conflict. Specifically, yung idea na paglalaki, blue, pagbabae,
Pink.
pink. So, to proceed with my report. Wait, okay. First, we have to identify yung idea about the difference between sex and gender. So, sa sex, minsan nakikita natin sa mga pinipilapan, nagkakamali rin yung iba kay ano yung idea ng sex versus gender. So,
Yes.
about sex, a person is born male or female. This is related to their yung sa biological side. This is constant and unalterable reproductive system. So, alam naman natin yung concepts pag lalaki, merong ganito sa reproductive system niya. Pag gender naman is an acquired identity. So what the community or environment dictates. So it's product of culture is learned. Sa sex natin, we only have two, male and female. While gender, masyado nung ilan na ba ngayon? Marami na. LGBT, marami pang ibang dagdag. So it can be changed because culture itself is dynamic. So malay natin, ano na ang mga next na madadagdag sa gender. Maliit na makita sila na pagkakaiba, so dadagdagan na ng pangalan. It is an identity to males and females provided to a process. So yung sa usual na male or female na hihiwalay na tinatagay sa gender. So role, gender roles, a character assigned or assumed. Sex role, we have a functional role assumed because of the basic physiological or anatomical differences between the sexes and can be performed by only one of the sexes. So sex role, like for example, is women. Women's the only one who gives birth. Women give birth to children while men make women pregnant. So ito yung roles of the sexes. We have here also the gender role. It refers to the society's evaluation of behavior as masculine or feminine. So kapag yung gaya kanina sa video, pag sinabing male, kailangan blue, di ba? Habang baby pa sila, blue. Pag nakakita mo naman yung lalaki na naka-pink, parang, parang hindi to lalaki. Because pink is associated sa mga babae. It is a set within the norms of the society. This defines sexual division of labor rooted technically as reproduction distinction. So kapag lalaki, later madadaanan natin about sa gender socialization. We have the gender stereotype. So result of gender roles. An overgeneralized belief on the characteristics of a person based simply on their gender. These are common perceptions or assumptions which limits a person. So nasabi na nga ni Ma'am kanina about yung sa gender stereotyping, marami ang natatamaan ito sa gender stereotyping na pag sinabi nating lalaki, kailangan ganito. Sa video kanina, pag lalaki, dapat ang laruan ng mga lalaki is yung mga cars, mga airplanes, yung mga ano ba yan, mga toys na wrestling, ganun. Kapag babae, kailangan dolls. So nalilimitahan yung power ng person kasi yun yung na-set na standard para sa kanila. So kapag ang lalaki is naglalaro ng Barbie doll, so ma-gender stereotype ka agad na, ano to, bakla ito, parang ganyan. So kapag babae naman, nakita mo na nagbabaril-barilan, so ano, tumbuyon man itong bata na ito. So ganun yung nangyayari, stereotyping. We have here the gender socialization. It is a lifelong process of inheriting and disseminating norms, customs, values, and ideologies. It is also called gendering. This answers why so many men and women seem to conform to society's definition of what is masculine and feminine. So, ito na yung parang nagkakaroon ng set. Nagkakaroon ng set na dapat ganito ka, dapat ganito ang gagawin mo. Where, kung lalaki ka, magte-take ka ng college, kailangan pulis ka, kailangan engineer ka. Kapag babae ka, education, nursing. Yan yung mga sineset na norms. No, kapag lalaki ka, purely male ka na nag-take ka ng nursing, iisipin ka agad na, parang hindi to tunay na lalaki. Ganyan naman. Tapos kapag babae ka, na nagpulis ka o nagsundalo ka, masculine naman ang titingnan, sasabihin sa'yo. Gender socialization process, child rearing as a mechanism for socialization. So as seen kanina doon sa video na play ko kanina, we have here the manipulation, handling boys and girls differently even as infants. So doon pa lang, child rearing pa lang, meron na kaagad tayong gender socialization process. Ina-associate na kaagad natin sila na kapag babae dapat dolls yung magiging laruan nila. Dapat color pink yung damit nila. Na kapag lalaki, blue yung laruan nila, and then dapat yung mga toy cars ang mga magiging laruan. So that is part of the process. Doon na nag-gender rearing na yon. Canalization, directing children's attention to gender-appropriate objects. As mentioned kanina, car and toy gun allowed to play outside and explore. Yan yung mga boys. Kapag lalaki, dapat naglalaro sa labas, normal lang na masugatan, ganyan. Ang mga babae naman, we have dolls, tea set, houses, teaches nurturing, teaching them with prescribed roles in life. Kapag babae, nasa bahay ka lang. Hindi ka pwede maglaro na doon sa labas, di ba? Kaya may mga terms like kababae mong tao, doon diyan ka sa labas. Sorry for my, igat-igat ka naman, sorry po sa term na yun. So, usual na nangyayari naman yan. That is a socialization process. Verbal appellation, telling children of what they are and what they are expected to be. Strong and should not cry. Ganyan ang mga boys. Boys will be boys, di ba? Kapag inaway ang boys, hindi ka dapat magsumbong. Or suntukin mo agad, may mga ganyan-ganyan. Kalalaking tao, iyakin pa. So, nangyayari yan. So, ang nagiging nangyayari, kaya may mga tendency na yung mga lalaki, mga hypertensive, mga high blood. Kasi mostly, yung feelings nila na gusto nilang umiyak, sinusuppress nila. Kasi may idea na kailangan malakas ang lalaki, hindi dapat umiiyak. And girls, prim and proper and should not bring shame to the family. So, kailangan ang girls, proper. Ang idea ng tao sa kanila is dapat nasa bahay, marunong sa gawaing bahay, hindi nakikita na maraming kasamang mga lalaki, ganyan, nag-aaral ng mabuti. So parang ganun ang idea. Kapag ang lalaki nabagsak, parang normal. Pero pag babae nabagsak, parang iba naman ang iisipin. Activity exposure, familiarization with gender-appropriate tasks. So pag boys, trained to be leaders and decisive. While girls, encouraged to help in housework. So when a man behaves well, society criticizes them. When a kid goes astray, mothers are blamed. So dito na papasok yung idea na patriarchal system as mentioned earlier. So, yung idea ng bourgeoisie and yung sa proletariat system parang nasa family din. Sabi sa report kanina. So, kapag lalaki ka, dapat ikaw yung magiging haligi ng tahanan. Strong ang personality mo. Leader ka, decisive ka. While kapag babae, dapat doon ka sa kusina, naglilinis ka. Ganyan yung sa idea. ng gender socialization. Naririnig pa po ba ako?
Yes po, sir. Opo.
Pa. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
So, socialization process. So, we have here different stages. Sa infancy pa lang, I already mentioned it. Sa bata pa lang, di ba? May ano nga yung tawag sa baby shower ba yun? Ay, yung mga lalaman ang gender. Di ba na uuso yun? Na kapag hindi pa nila alam yung gender, ipapaalam na yung gender. Pag pink, associated na kaagad sa girls. Pag boys, blue. Then pagdating sa childhood, girls, no biking. Stay at home, should not be sporty or active. So kailangan ang babae ng kabataan dapat natututo ng mga gawaing bahay. So mostly mga bata yan tinuturuan na maghugas ng pinggan kasi gawaing pang babae yan. Yun kaagad yung nilalagay sa isip. So the implication, they do not learn the rules of the game. Assertiveness is not practiced, less physical development, limiting opportunities to explore. So ngayon meron ng women empowerment, pero kaya nagkakaroon ng idea na mahina, weak yung babae because of this thinking na bata dapat ganito. So hindi na sila nagiging assertive, hindi may mga rape victims na yung pag sinabi, mostly naririnig natin, subukan mong magsumbong. So nagiging weak na yung personality ng women because of this kind of upbringing. While boys naman should climb trees, play outside, do not cry. So implications nito, they do not learn how to be nurturing, don't show emotions, limiting their potentials. So yun din, masyado nang nasusuppress yung feelings ng mga kabataan. Hindi na sila marunong mag-express kasi dapat ine-expect sa kanila maglaro, hindi dapat umiyak. Next stage is teenagers. Teenagers, girls, should be reserved and careful. Should not stay out at night. So kailangan ito yung mga pinapasukan ng curfews, mga girls. Dapat ng 5 bago magdilim. Nakauwi na kayo. Kababain yung tao, gabing-gabi na, di ba? May mga ganyan tayo na naririnig. So, ang nangyayari, they grow up with fear. They have low self-esteem, grow up less trust of oneself, less decisive and independent. So, yun na. As mentioned earlier, yung sa mga victims, mostly ng mga rapes, mga ganyan. Kasi, mababa na ang tingin nila sa sarili nila. So, while boys will be boys. Natural to be aggressive, to go out and explore. So, kapag nagkakamali ang boys, normal, sabihin nila, kaya lalaki kasi yan. So, independence, ang implications, independence, assertiveness, being active, high self-esteem. And mostly nagiging impulsive kasi magiging sobrang aggressive naman, matapang, na iisip nila na normal lang yan, lalaki ako, na hindi na nila baka na sa boy. Medyo aggressive na, hindi na masyado napapansin na medyo may mali na sa nagagawa. Kasi sinasabi na, ito yung kailangan namin gawin dahil lalaki kami. Next is adulthood. Especially dun sa mga magiging mag-asawa. Ito yung isa sa mga notions talaga. Pero ngayon is na-change na rin. Minsan kasi lalaki na rin yung nabubugbog eh. Okay. Adulthood. Girl. Infidelity is unacceptable. So kapag yung babae na nakiapid, nagloko, ang mga implications kaagad, masamang babae, walang kwenta, di ba? Ang sinasabi kaagad is, grabe naman tong kababaeng tao, malandi, maharot, mga ganyan-ganyan na mga terminologies. Pero kapag ang lalaki naman, pag lalaki, man is by nature polygamous. Pag ang lalaki may ibang babae, sabihin, sa may mga notion, normal, lalaki lang yan. Normal. Di ba? Kung may nabuntis, palibasa, lalaki naman yan.
Lalaki.
Yan ang lalaki. Parang may ganun kaagad na idea na normal lang yan sa lalaki. Normal lang na magloko, wag lang magpahuli. May mga ganyan-ganyan pa na terms. So, nagkakaroon din yun ng gender stereotyping. So, maraming parang, kasi sa idea nito is patriarchal pa rin talaga. So, Later, we will deal with women empowerment. Next is socialization process institution. Family parents, girls are given household chores, trained in housework. So yun yung idea talaga, 'di ba? Kapag ang babae hindi marunong magtrabaho ng pambahay, ang pangit-pangit na ng imahe. Kababaeng tao mo, kababaeng tao mo hindi ka marunong maglaba. Kababaeng tao mo hindi ka marunong maglinis, 'di ba? So when there are limited resources, girls should stay at home. While boys, sa mga lalaki naman, should be aggressive, go out, train to be decision makers and leaders. So sila yung may opportunity na mag-go sa school. Kasi ang idea is they will be future breadwinners. Ganon yung notion, especially ng mga noong unang panahon. Ngayon medyo nag-change na talaga ito, may gender shifting na talaga. Throughout a child's life, parents orient them about acceptable gender roles and standards. Especially noon talaga, ang mga lalaki talaga ang, 'di ba, may power, may lalaki talaga. Kaya nag-rise yung feminism. So, kailangan boys ganito ang gagawin, girls ganito. Kailangan matuto ng ganito. Okay, ito naman yung nangyayari. Paano naman sa family with husband and wife? Kapag ang lalaki naman noon na gumagawa ng household chores, or husband consults his wife for decision, husband goes home early, husband has no vices, husband does not go on nights out with friends, when children fails or go astray, o minsan yung ATM pa nandun kay misis, mga ganyan. So ano yung mga nagiging implication? So with the idea na yung lalaki dapat matapang, may decision sa buhay. So kapag hindi niya nagagawa yun, ito yung nangyayari sa kanya, gumagawa siya ng mga gawaing pambabae, under desire, or ridiculed by relatives and friends. Halimbawa, kontrolado ng asawa mo yung sahod mo. Sinasabihan, bakit ganyan? Kalalaking tao, di ba? May mga ganun na idea na kaagad. Or i-judge na kaagad yung asawa na pabaya man yung ina niya, pabaya yung asawa mo kasi hindi marunong magtrabaho, hindi marunong maglinis ng bahay. So, mga walang bisyo, restricting for men. Pag hindi nakakasama sa mga gala, di ba? Sinasabihan kaagad na, gipagbawalan na naman, kami magpaalam sa iyo, may mga ganun. So, ang mother naman is accused being an irresponsible mother. Kapag may nangyari sa anak, nanay kaagad lang pagbibintangan. Next, we have institution for mass gender socialization, formal education, difference in disciplining boys and girls, difference in terms of subjects offered like the electives and courses to pursue, images in textbooks and visual aids. So sa formal education, so iba-iba yung way ng pagharap when it comes to boys and girls. So noon, sikat na sikat pa yung mga exclusive schools for boys and girls. So may mga nangyayari din sa gender na din na pag pure boys, so merong nagiging effeminate, may pure girls, meron namang nagiging masculine. So subjects offered sa electives, yung mga panday-panday na mga minsan is carpentry is usually given for boys. Mga luto, sa luto? Bread and pastries, mga ganyan. Mga cooking is mostly for girls. Mass media. Media consistently portrays women as housewives, martyrs. Yeah, di ba? Mga nangyayari sa natin, sa mga telenovela. Advertising uses images that reinforce gender stereotype. Women as housewives, men go off to work. So yung mga advertisements. So may mga advertisement na yun ang laging pinapakita. Advertising using sexualized images to sell male-oriented products. Women are dehumanized, portrayed as commodities and sexual objects. So, halimbawa yung mga advertisement ng mga inumin. Mga inumin na panglalaki is merong mga sexing babae talaga na makikita. So, parang marketing strategy na mayroong mga sexing babae kapag iinom ka nito. Ganyan. Courses, socialization process also for schools. Courses for boys, we have engineering, architecture, and welding. While for girls, education, nursing, secretarial. On out of wedlock pregnancy, ito masyadong natatamaan tong girls, di ba? Kapag may mga institutions pa rin na pag yung teachers nila o uh, yung employee nila is buntis na hindi pa kasal, bibigyan ng mga sanction or bibigyan ng time na dapat ganito, magpapakasal ka na. So limiting their opportunity to choose. Schooling is not anymore a matter of choice but has become an imposition. So may mga gender biases pa rin, gender stereotypes pa rin na kapag lalaki, as mentioned earlier, pag lalaki nag-education, nag-nursing, na hindi yan siya tunay na lalaki. Ganun rin naman kapag babae nag-engineer, may mga ganyan. Schools further widens the differentiation between boys and girls. A girl who gets pregnant while studying gets kicked out. Totoo ba? Di ba? Pag ang babae nabuntis, di ba, tatanggalin sa school. But a boy who gets a girl pregnant does not receive sanction. So relax lang ang boy na nakabuntis, continue pa rin yung life and masyadong affected yung girls. Next, when it comes to peers, girls should stay beautiful, slim, wear nice clothes. Kasi pag di ka maganda, iiwan ka. Totoo ba yan, girls? Ganon yung idea sa gender stereotyping.
Yes.
Kapag di ka maganda, kailangan mong magpaganda. Self-worth, physical, ganda lang ang pakinabang ng girls. So yan yung bias, di ba? Pag di ka maganda, iiwan ka. So kailangan lagi ring magpaganda ang girls. Pero kung may asawa ka naman, tapos nagpapaganda ka, minsan iniisip na meron kang nilalandi namang iba. Masyadong judgmental ang mundo. Boys should always be strong physically, engage in sports, and should not cry. Big responsibility as provider, making more men hypertensive. Ito na yung sinabi ko kanina na maraming lalaki ang high blood ng mga kasi yung mga emotions nila masyado nang nasosuppress, hindi na ilalabas. So mahilig magkimkim kasi ayaw nilang ipakita na umiiyak sila kasi 'di ba? Kailangang matapang daw ang mga lalaki. Next. Sa government naman natin, laws favor men. Adultery, concubinage, yung as mentioned earlier, kapag nangabit, pag lalaki nangabit, okay lang, normal kasi lalaki. Pero kapag babae, ang dami-dami ng sinasabi, ang dami-dami ng implications na mangyayari kapag babae ang nangabit. Hindi lang sa hindi naging mabuting asawa, hindi naging mabuting ina, pangit sa image ng mga babae na naman. When it comes to workplace, men in general get higher pay at work. Women in general in service industries, mas maliit yung opportunity. Kasi may mga judgment, di ba? Pag may period yung babae, nagiging moody. So, pag mag-mood swing ang babae, it is not healthy daw sa decision making ng isang company. Kailangan firm. Yun na yung idea na dapat nakikita lang sa lalaki. Less opportunities to take leadership positions sa mga babae. Kaya mostly pag may idea ka agad, lalaki ang magiging president, lalaki ang nagiging ganyan. So women are usually in the informal sector which does not require planning or decision-making skills. Trabaho na, bahay pa. So mga babae, wala yan siya sa decision-making body. Kaya masyadong na-judge ang girls. Also in media, sabi ko nga kanina, women in the advertisements, cosmetic ads, convey that for a woman to be loved, dapat maganda at makinis. So maraming mga beauty products na bawal may pimples, bawal may kailangan maputi, magluta, maraming mga sabon-sabon. Kailangan magaganda ang mga babae. Kasi yun yung magiging worth nila when it comes sa pagtitingnan ng lalaki. Mas nagiging nadjudge ang babae na kung pangit ka, hindi ka titingnan ng mga lalaki. And ganun din naman yung sa lalaki na side ngayon na sinasabing maganda lang, hindi lang kagandahan ang tinitingnan ng mga lalaki. Other product ads, buy this liquor, car, and this woman will be your sexy women in noontime show. Yes, di ba? Pa-sexy ng pa-sexy, paganda ng mga host. So, again, marketing strategy pa rin. Siguro, yun yung sa idea ng pangit and maganda pa rin. Kailangan maganda yung nakikita kasi ng mga audience para mas tangkilikin yung mga tao. And pa-sexy ng pa-sexy, paiksi ng damit. Kapag maganda, nagpa-iksi ng damit, wow. Pero kapag mataba o pangit, nagpa-iksi ng damit, iba rin yung judgment natin. Media don't usually portray the diverse roles of women. It tend to emphasize her physical appearance than her ability. Diba? Marami tayong mga artista na kapag maganda, wow na wow tayo, pero nung narinig natin magsalita ngayon, hindi naman ganun katalino. Pero minsan pinapaboran pa rin natin kasi artista. Pero kapag hindi maganda, nagsalita ng pangmatalino, nag-judge pa rin natin. Women are sex objects, pangkama, pampagana, pampasaya. So yung ganun yung tinitingnan sa women, sa gender stereotyping. Institution of mass gender socialization when it comes to language, it is more subtle. Sa religion naman, gendering occurs through doctrine, structure, or hierarchy and unofficial religious interpretation. So may mga religion pa rin na na-connect din kanina na hindi walang yung mga women. Hindi ganun ka-powerful yung women sa religion. Sa Bible particularly, mostly mga men talaga yung may mga power. I don't know sa Quran, hindi ko rin kabisado. Next is sa church. Pag ganito, nangyayari talaga ito. A woman's virginity is sacred. It should be given as a gift to his husband once married. So worth ng woman kapag virgin. Virgin, while for men, sikat kapag may experience ka. Again, different set of rules, di ba? So may I think may encounter ako na article before na kapag ikakasal, parang yung the night after ng kasal, yung makikipagtalik na yung babae sa lalaki, nandoon yung parents. Kailangan parent ng lalaki, kailangan ma-prove na virgin pa yung babae. Kasi kung malaman na hindi virgin yung babae, hindi itutuloy yung kasal, parang ganun. So, masyadong sa women's virginity, masyadong sacred ang women's virginity. Kapag lalaki naman, kapag may experience, kahit na nakailan ka na, bago ka mag-asawa is normal lang. Mas parang nagiging normal siya kasi lalaki, ganyan. And wedding rights. Sa wedding rights, yun parang nagsasubmit kayong sa husband mo. Kailangan mong sundin yung apelyido ng husband. Pero technically sa law, hindi naman talaga necessary na sundin ng babae yung apelyido ng lalaki. Nasa decision pa rin niya yan ngayon. So teachings depict that women's place is in the home, be a good mother and a wife. So it is used by some to justify why women should stay with a batterer. Diba yung mga nabubugbog na asawa, minsan hindi rin sila nasi-save kasi because of this mga notions, mga norms. Tiis lang. Sige lang, asawa ka. Ganyan ka bilang asawa. Kasi kasalanan mo rin. May mga ganun na judgment sa mga asawa, especially sa mga babae. So that is all for my report po. Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Parang napahaba.
Yeah, thank you. Very detailed na report.
Yes, sir.
Louie. Who's next, Louie?
Si Ma'am Neng po, Ma'am Neng Salipada po.
Assalamualaikum. Good morning.
Morning. Proceed ka na, Neng.
Yes po, sir. Continuation lang po ito ng report ni Sir. Sir, pwede po paki-ano ng...
Apa. Okay. Okay na po, ma'am.
Recording to all of us. Hello, marinig niyo ako?
Opo, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Ang may iba't ibang manifestation na nagpapatunay na mayroon ng gender bias. Una is marginalization, subordination, and multi-burden. Sa marginalization, kadalasan ang accomplishment ng kababaihan ay di na pagbibigyan ng kahalagan o hindi na recognize. Pangalawa, ang mababang kabayaran kahit na pareho ang antas ng trabaho natin, pinakahuling ma-hire ay yun ang pinakaunang matatanggal sa trabaho. Ang oportunidad para magkaroon ng trabaho ay limitado lamang kumpara sa mga kalakahian na kadalasan ay napagsasamantalan pa ang kahinaan ng kababaihan. Sa subordination naman, ang kababaihan ay di napipiling maging punong opisyal. Pag siya ay magdesisyon, kailangan pa niyang ikonsulta sa asawa niya. Dinadala niya ang apelyido ng asawa niya. Yun din yung hello?
Hello,
Yes,
hello.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, ang multi-body naman, ang kababaihan